ever public remarks as special counsel. Today, Bob Mueller addressed why there was no conclusion about whether Donald Trump actually committed the crime of obstruction. And in the process, he went forward in ways that would suggest contradictions of his boss, which is someone he's worked with for decades, of course, now Attorney General Bill Barr. Mueller saying the Justice Department has rules that prevent the charging of a sitting president with a crime, no matter what evidence they find. And that mirrors what Mueller, of course, wrote in the report. But it also differs in the takeaway, if not in the careful lawyerese, of what Barr told everyone in April, emphasizing that Mueller, Barr said, didn't find a crime at all, and that was therefore up to Barr and Barr alone to then make some sort of charging decision. And then, of course, as you know, he concluded that he says there was no reason to charge Donald Trump. Now, Mueller today makes it clear he decided early on he wouldn't even go down the road of that type of question.
We specifically asked him about the OLC opinion and whether or not he was taking the position that he would have found a crime but for the existence of the OLC opinion. And he made it very clear several times that that was not his position.
So that was Justice Department policy. Those were the principles under which we operated. And from them, we concluded that we would not reach a determination one way or the other about whether the president committed a crime.
In Mueller's report, he also suggested this is all up to Congress. We concluded, he writes, that Congress has the authority to prohibit a president's corrupt use of authority. Mueller striking a similar note today in comments that appeared to break with Barr.
Special Counsel Mueller did not indicate that his purpose was to leave the decision to Congress. I am told that his reaction to that was that it was my prerogative as Attorney General to make that decision.
The opinion says that the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system to formally accuse a sitting president of wrongdoing.
I am joined now by Matt Miller, who has set up exactly the kind of press conferences you just saw there at the Justice Department, and former prosecutor John Flannery. Matt, what was Mueller getting at in the careful way that he laid out his arguments while stressing, to the extent that it came up, that he was not, he says, questioning Mr. Barr?
Well, you know, I think he was making clear when he said that about wasn't questioning Bill Barr's good faith. He was really confining those remarks to a very specific thing, to Bill Barr's not exercising good faith in the way he released the report. But I do think by choosing to use the words he did, look, he could have said a lot of things about his report today. He chose to make these very specific remarks about why he didn't make a determination. I think that was pretty clearly to correct the public record, in the same way that he thought the initial letter that Bill Barr sent to Congress had left a misimpression with the American public. We know that because he wrote a letter complaining. I think he today wanted to set the record straight, because Bill Barr's press conference and subsequent testimony to Congress and his interviews with Fox News had left a misimpression with the American public. Now, anyone that has read the Mueller report would have known that what Bill Barr said in those clips you just showed was misleading. But a lot of people haven't read the report.
And
we know
very
that.
misleading, and that's what I am. This is not that thing where I'm just asking questions. I'm really genuinely trying to understand this, Matt, because I'm going to play for you some of the things Mr. Barr said that, even if technically, arguably defensible, they left people and the public and plenty of experts with the impression that Barr was saying Mueller didn't find enough criminal evidence. And that's not what Mueller said. Take a look.
He reiterated several times in a group meeting that he was not saying that but for the OLC opinion he would have found obstruction.
Yeah. If the special counsel found facts sufficient to constitute obstruction of justice, would he have stated that finding?
If he had found that, then I think he would state it, yes.
Matt, yes or no, on May 1st, did Barr have reason to know that that statement was not accurate?
Yeah, of course he did. Look, Mueller had said in the report that it would be unfair for me to accuse the president of a crime, even and that's what what Barr is saying there, that he doesn't think Mueller would have said that. Well, he specifically said not only can I not charge a president, but because I can't charge a president, it's unfair for me to accuse him because there's no way for him to clear his name in court.
So I hate to draw you out. I hate to draw you out, Matt, on potentially breaking with your esteemed colleagues at the Justice Department, but several outlets, including MSNBC, has reported today that the Mueller Justice Department officials have said no, they were releasing material to show there was no conflict on that very point between Barr and Mueller. What do you say to that?
There's a lot of internal politics that goes on inside the Justice Department. I don't know how that statement came to be. I don't know who asked to put it out. I wouldn't want to speculate. But if you just look at the facts, you can see on a number of occasions.
You don't think it flies?
I don't think it flies. Look,
Let me get Flannery in.
There's no way you can look at what he said and conclude
Miller says it doesn't fly. It's my job to report out what we're hearing. So when we hear from someone from the Mueller side that they were trying to demonstrate unity, I'm going to report that we're hearing that. I'm also going to report the receipts, Flannery, which look like that's really hard to square because I just showed you the Attorney General of the United States under oath to the Congress acting like, had there been more evidence, Mueller could have and would have said, oh, the president committed a crime, which is the opposite of the report.
It is the opposite of the report. And like you said, it's only witches that fly, I suppose. I mean, you have to deny what your eyes see and what your ears hear from Barr in contradiction to Mueller. Mueller may perhaps be too elegant in his argument in the sense that he contradicted the 4-page misleading letter that in his March 27th letter, he said, you've misrepresented my investigation. And today he set the record straight. And on the one hand, we had Barr trying to delay the world knowing what the report was really about, both by that 4-page letter and by the slow release of the report that does not find objection in Mueller. And then you have, ironically enough, you have the Congress leadership sort of assuming the mantra, if you will, of carpe manana. And if anything is true about today's pronouncement by Mueller, it is get moving. Here it is. You have it before you act upon it. Carpe manana, yes.
Impressive.
Instead of carpe diem.
No, I got it. Matt?
Okay, I figured you got it, but, some people in the Justice Department don't understand what Mueller said, so maybe sometimes we have to explain these things.
Hey, I work one piece at a time. I go slowly, but Matt, I mean, this really gets to the heart of it, right? Because at the end of the day, Bob Mueller was authorized to look at a lot of stuff, but the highest profile, most pivotal call related to the potential criminal evidence against the president. Matt.
Yeah, that's right. And it also, the also important thing is what ought to be done about that. And that's why what Bill Barr said was so important. Look, Bill Barr basically said the case was closed. And when he was asked at that press conference if Mueller didn't make this determination because he thought it ought to be left to Congress, he said, well, I would hope that would not be his opinion because that's not our job as prosecutors. Our job is to make determinations. And Mueller was saying in his report and saying very clearly today, in this one special instance when it involves the president, not anyone else, the one person who can't be indicted, it is our job, the Constitution says, and the OLC opinion says, that we are supposed to leave that to Congress. And that is so important because it means the case is not closed. The case is open for Congress to pick up and run with if they want to.
And so, Matt, given the nuances of this kind of communication, because the job you held is different from most other agencies, there are secrecy rules. Mueller operated with tremendous secrecy. He worked off-site from the DOJ and all the rest. In the end, is your view that Bob Mueller could not necessarily match the communication skills and challenges of this particular environment with all of the tremendous legal skills and unquestioned integrity he had during the investigation? Because the sum result of what you're saying is that Barr, at a practical level, was effective in part of what you describe as duplicity.
Look, I think Mueller and his team were acted appropriately, but maybe eventually a little bit naive. I wish that they would have come out and the special counsel would have made the statement he made today on the day that he transmitted his report to the Attorney General. Now, in his defense, you shouldn't expect the Attorney General to act in bad faith in the way that Bill Barr did. So I suspect they never expected him to act that way. So I don't really blame them for what they did, but it would have been the better course of action to maybe control this story from the get-go to make sure no one else could take ownership of it.
Well, the constraint on Mueller, though, is he abides by the law. And we had an attorney general who was nothing more than a spokesperson for the defendant or subject of the investigation. And I think that facts are a stubborn thing, to go back to John Adams, and that these facts stubbornly persist. The question that we have to face is we don't need a we need a triage. That is, we shouldn't be chasing Mueller to have him testify when he's told us what he's going to do.
And that's fair, and we covered that on the testimony earlier in the show.
Yes.
John, before I let you go, though, let me press you on that. You're arguing that Mueller is Batman and Barr is the Joker, and you have a fight between someone who follows rules and someone who does not.
Right.
And in your extended analogy, you have the Joker saying, well, that's the rule you're going to have to break. But your argument does cut against what Mueller painstakingly did today, which was, to the extent he addressed it at all, he presented unity with Barr, not a Joker-like battle.
Well, every hero has his faults. That's the tragedy. But this can yet be a classic comedy in the sense that we can overcome the tyrant that sits in the West Wing using the facts that he found elsewhere in his report.
Does every hero live long enough to become a villain?
Not all heroes become villains, but we all have character flaws.
All right, let me just quickly say, I'm not asking, I wouldn't ask Bob Mueller to go the full Jim Comey, but, you know, Batman also knew when to kind of stretch the rules a little bit.
We'll leave it there. Matt and John, thank you so much. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.